In this video, I will go over the different scenarios for turning in the textbook assignments for Art 195. First, a couple reminders about the textbook. As explained at the very beginning of the textbook, you need to download the fonts and the chapter assignments. Pay really close attention as you're moving on in the book as to what program the chapter is using. I've seen students assume that they were working in one program, but the chapter was working in another, and then they were really frustrated because they were looking up here and couldn't find menu items that the book was referring to. Always look at your chapter project at the very end. Look at the last photograph and there where they finish up working on it, and make sure that yours looks appropriately close to it, because if they told you to turn something on, then off, then on again, and you didn't, and you turn it in, that's one of the things that's going to draw my attention right away is, oh, there's something different about your project. When you get ready to turn the project in, most of the time you will just simply be turning in 2 files. So 2 files for each chapter. The first one will be whatever you have been working on in the book. And all files are always going to be named this way: your last name, your first name, a description, all separated by an underscore, which is shift hyphen key, and then a description, which just like CH1 for chapter 1, CH3 for chapter 3, and then whatever you were working on: Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign. Okay, so if it were Jane Doe turning in chapter 1, she'd be turning in Doe, her last name, underscore Jane, her first name, underscore chapter 1, dot AI file, because chapter 1 is an AI Illustrator project. And then, per the instructions that we're going over soon, she would also create a PDF file. The rest of the name will be the same, just the extension will be different. So just pay attention in the book, because sometimes they have you start out doing a little something in Photoshop, and then maybe you end up in InDesign with a layout. Because everything's contained in InDesign, it would be the InDesign file that you would turn in that case. Okay, and then like I said, the second file will be the PDF. The major exception to this is there's a chapter in the book, and I won't say which chapter number it is because sometimes the chapter numbers change a little bit from semester to semester, but you'll know it when you get there. There is a chapter where you edit a whole bunch of single images in Photoshop. In that case, you will just save out the final version of whatever the file format is. Like they may say, okay, save this out as a TIFF file. In that case, you would turn it into me as a TIFF. They may say, save this one as a Photoshop document. Same thing, turn in the Photoshop document to me. This is the only chapter that you turn in a folder. Everything else you will just simply turn in the files. That's why I have you put your last name first. But for the chapter where you edit a whole bunch of single files in Photoshop, in that case you can make a folder, name it your last name, underscore first name, and then just a chapter, CH and the chapter number, and put all of the different files that you've been working on in Photoshop in there. Okay, so now I will go over creating PDFs. There's going to be various ways, depending on which program you're in, to save a PDF. But in every situation, first save out your work for one last time. Then make sure you know each time when you're either saving or exporting a PDF that you pay attention to where it's being saved, and you take control of that so that you know exactly where to find that PDF that you just saved. When you've created the PDF, open it and look at it. Make sure it's exactly what you were expecting, that it looks exactly like what you were planning on turning in. If not, go back, watch the video a little bit closer, and give it another try. And in the first example I show you here of making a PDF from Illustrator, I'll go over these steps, but I won't repeat them for the other 3 scenarios that come up here. Okay, so we are going to create a simple PDF from Illustrator, meaning that it just has, or we are only using one single artboard. So here are the steps. I will show them to you now. All right, so let's assume that this is where you ended up with in a project in the book, and this is your one and only artboard on here. And if you want to know how you can tell, one way is you hold on the command key and minus and click on the artboard tool, and you'll see that's the one and only artboard on there. And I'll show you an example of one with more than one artboard on it in a second. Okay, and if ever you're way zoomed out of your work and you want to get back to it quick, just make sure that the hand tool is the forward-facing tool in this slot. Put your mouse over it, double click, and we're going to, here's the steps that I'm only going to say once, but it applies to every scenario. You're going to make sure that you've done one last save, and if it's not already named, ready to turn it in, you could do File, Save As, and change the name here, save out another copy properly named, or you could just go in whatever you named it and change it for turning in. But I just want to make sure that this indeed is the file that I'm going to turn in, and that is all set. And now I'm going to go ahead and create the PDF. So I go File, Save As, and now I want to change this format to Adobe PDF. You can see it automatically changes the extension there. I'm going to pay very close attention to where this file is going by making sure that I navigate through here, know where this folder is, and then I'm going to click Save. Another menu will come up, probably not this because I've already saved one, name this, but this will come up for you, and you want to change the Adobe PDF preset to high quality print, and then you want to view the PDF after saving. Nothing else needs to be checked, and then you just click Save PDF, and you can OK on that, and then it will open it up in PDF, and then or Adobe Acrobat I should say. It opens the PDF up in here, and you can zoom out or zoom in just to make sure that's exactly what you're expecting. And if you want to be ultra safe, you can navigate to the folder where that was saved, close Adobe Acrobat, and open up the document one more time by clicking on it so you know that what I receive will be perfect. Here I am inside the folder, and I'll just double click on that PDF, and opens up in Adobe Acrobat, minus a couple times, and I can see I received exactly what I was expecting. I am now good to turn in both the Illustrator file and the PDF. Sometimes in Illustrator you end up with more than one artboard, and if I click on the artboard tool, whichever artboard I click on is the one that wakes up. So one possibility that I could do if I only want this artboard and I don't want any extra steps from what I just showed you is I could select the artboard that I do not want, click delete, and now I don't even have to think about a second artboard. But just in case you're in a scenario where you want to keep this artboard, here's the steps that you do with multiple artboards. The only real difference is you need to make note of which artboard you want, enter in the artboard number and range, and follow the rest of the steps above. So it's basically those two new steps, and then you just go back here and repeat the rest. So how do you figure out which artboard it is you want? When you click on any artboard, it'll automatically show you down here which artboard you are working on. So in this case, I want this artboard. I know it's artboard number 1. I'm going to go File, Save As. Once again, I'm going to select the Adobe PDF, and then I am going to click on range, and I'm going to enter in number 1 in the range, and the rest is the same. If you end up in Photoshop for a project, it's very simple. It's just File, Save As, and select Photoshop PDF. So let's pretend this is a chapter from the book. We just simply go up to File, and of course we save one last time and all that good stuff. But we go to Save As, we go to Format and we change that to Photoshop PDF right there. And then we give that the last underscore first underscore chapter number and turn in both the file that we ended up with in Photoshop and then this PDF. Next we come to creating a PDF from Indesign, and that is export in this program. So File, Export, and then you select the PDF print. So we'll pretend your syllabus is a book project. You save it out one last time, make sure you've got a copy with your name on it properly, and then you go to File, Export. And then when this menu comes up from Format, you are going to select Adobe PDF Print. Make sure you know where it's going to, and you want to, actually that's it here. And then you want to, just like before in Illustrator, you want to check the box that says View PDF after exporting. You really don't need to have anything else checked in here. And under the preset, you're going to select High Quality Print, just like you did in Illustrator. And then you are going to click Export, and it will open up the document again in Adobe Acrobat. And our final scenario is for the chapter. Again, I won't say what number it is, but it'll be the chapter with stationery. Generally what they have you do is create 3 different variations of a logo and then put it on stationery and put it on an envelope. I want all of those things as a single PDF, so meaning one file, but it'll actually have 3 pages in it. One page will be the stationery, one page will be the envelope, and one page will be all 3 variations of the logo together. When you do this project in the book, you'll end up with anywhere from 1 to 3 different Illustrator files. Open all of them up in Illustrator. Something like this with the multiple files opened up in Illustrator. You'll have the different tabs. You'll see all the different projects you've been working on. If they don't look exactly the same or hug the edges of the artboard exactly like mine are, don't worry. All I'm really after here is that you're turning in all 3 things as one PDF. You'll have an opportunity to clean up the artboards before you do the final save as PDF. The way I suggest you do this is start with 1 copy of the final textbook file, and you see I bolded copy, meaning that you know that that has already been saved out, ready for turn in, and that this will be just for creating your PDF. Find out the sizes of the other artboards. So we're going to go in here. Let's say that this is going to be our starting document, the one that the stationery is on in my example. So what I'm going to do is go into the other 2 documents and write down how big the artboards are. Now your sizes are not going to be what I'm showing you here. So you got to apply critical thinking to do this for your document. But in my example of putting 3 documents together and creating a single PDF, I'm going to look at this one and I'm going to write down that this is 9 inches wide by 4 inches high. I'm going to do the same for the other document. So I simply click on the artboard tool, look into properties over here, and write down that size, and whatever those 2 sizes were, I'm going to go back to my starting document and I'm going to create 2 new artboards. And the way that I like to do this is just to zoom out, so I've got plenty of space, go over, grab the artboard tool, click and drag out roughly the size, and you can see there's a width and a height showing up next to it. I don't even try to get close. I just punch in some numbers closely to it, and then I go over here into properties and I put the exact size that I'm looking for. And again, your numbers will vary. And then I'm going to do the same thing again, make sure I have the artboard tool, do this one more time, a little bit oversized, and then come over here and type in the exact numbers that I'm looking for.